Hi, folks. I'm Ken Weene. Welcome to It Matters Radio. Today, my co-host, Monica Brinkman, and I thought we would just chat a bit with one-on-one and not have a guest. And the reason is that we wanted to catch up a little bit on our lives, on your lives, on the life of our country, our world, more than just political things, but that too. Mostly, we just wanted to say, how are we doing? Monica, how are we doing?
We're doing well in some respects, I believe. you know, um, I think that I know me personally, I'm doing so much better than I was, let's say, a year ago. It's not due to any politics or anything. It's in spite of the politics, I think, really.
Okay.
But I do know that in life, I want people to know that, gosh, you never know what's around the next corner.
Mm.
You never know what's going to pop up. So I tend to treat my life as like this adventure.
Is there the other way to look at life? I mean, if it isn't an adventure, if it came with a manual, I'm not sure I'd want to bother living it.
I know if you knew exactly what was going to happen all the time, you'd either be sitting around excited and waiting for it to happen, and then you'll anticipate so much it'll be a big letdown, or you know something terrible is going to happen, and then you're in dread. So.
Yeah. I have trouble, accepting the idea of too that we shouldn't worry because it's all in God's hands. I think it's in our hands. We are on an adventure. But you see, I did a lot of camping, a lot of hiking, a lot of canoeing, whitewater rafting when I was younger. And all of those things, the thing is, the best part of it is not knowing and knowing you have the responsibility for making it turn out. Mm-hmm. Or as Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Yes, exactly. Because one thing about life, I find that people get too caught up in surviving, which, I mean, sometimes that's all they can do. If you're a very poor person and you have to work 2 or 3 jobs to get by, what else do you have in life, really, except your family and the time off? Yeah. But I'm hoping people will take life and live it with passion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the real problems that we have as a society, and we're getting down to the political, is that at some point we stopped having to fight to survive as a value. Mm-hmm. I mean, when people first came when Europeans first came to what is now the United States, the Americas, there were people here who were living quite nicely, actually. But the Europeans, they fought to survive, and that's the thing about the Pilgrims, they came and they're starving to death, kind of thing. If the Native Americans hadn't helped them,
you're right.
And of course, the people who settled in Jamestown did starve to death. And so the whole idea is fight to survive, and we were settled as a nation by the European settlement of the country was by primarily people who were struggling to survive, and in a place that they weren't making it. So, like my grandparents came here from Europe in order to get ahead, but because they couldn't survive, they were trapped.
Yes.
So I think a lot of us, that was the thing. But now we look at television, listen to the media, and we say there should be more. And I think one of the real problems we have as a society is deciding, should everybody have access to that more? should everybody have should people be struggling to survive? Should somebody be working two minimum wage jobs just to be able to eat a bad diet and, be one paycheck away from the streets? Or should we be guaranteeing to people that, okay, you don't have to worry about surviving. Now let's see if we can get you to worry about how to maximize your life.
Well, I think what's important in life is to do what pleases you, even if it's a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you treat it as a hobby, because you're going to wake up one day, and be our age and realize you didn't do any of this. And that's what you love in life. And it's usually the simple things. It's not the things that are money.
I to some degree, I agree with you about that, but I think some of it is about money. I mean, reality is, for example, I'm a bit of a gourmand. I love to eat.
Yeah.
Say
Don't
gourmet.
we all?
I just love to eat.
Yeah, don't talk about food today.
Seriously, I like to go out to those 5-star restaurants. I love to go to symphony concerts. I love to go to theater, and all those things do cost money. Travel costs money.
Well, that's a problem, though, Ken. A lot of those events did not cost the enormous amount they cost today.
Shouldn't have cost, you say?
I know that we used to be able to go and see, let's say, 4 bands for heck, $25, $30. You were there all day. Or we would go to the theater all the time because the tickets weren't expensive.
Yeah.
But there's what's been happening to our society, especially since this pandemic, I've seen, is that the wealthy are taking advantage of it. They're charging so much money for food now. It's almost doubled.
You're talking about in the grocery stores?
Yes, and it's other things too. I've noticed almost everything you purchase, it's a lot more money than it used to be.
Well, yeah, I'm luckily in my life, I'm not facing that so much, partly because we're reasonably comfortable, but also, actually, the money we're not spending on things like theater tickets and stuff. I don't have a problem paying that extra, but yes, I do see that some prices are going up. I think
the healthy items are the prices that are going up so much, though. It's like the doctor telling you should eat well.
How do we subsidize? Well, one of the ways to eat better, and this may sound bizarre, but I think one of the ways for people to eat better is to actually go to food banks.
Yeah, they do. That's something that's very good, yes. And
a lot of the time, the food that's available to you at a food bank, especially if you do a little research how to cook it, is better than the stuff you might buy in a grocery store, because the stuff that's inexpensive in a grocery store is often really high on chemicals, on fats. Mm-hmm. So I actually think some people might be eating better for having less money. How do we as a society subsidize, or should we subsidize? Should everybody who wants to be able to have a place to live have one? Or, should people be living under the bridge?
Well, I have to say that most people who don't choose to be homeless. There's some that do. There's some that love that life.
Yes,
they used to call them hobos and tramps before and such, but they just love wandering around.
Yeah, there's a small number.
Yes, but the majority of these people...
Bees and things like that, so they're homeless, but they're not homeless.
Exactly. But the growing number of people that are homeless now, most of it's not really due to something they could control.
Well, especially now with COVID, there's going to be a lot of people who haven't been able to pay their rent who are going to be evicted, and
Exactly.
it's not something they can control.
Right. And I mean, I think we're all born with an ability to do better in life, but we're not all afforded the same opportunities. And that's what people, in my opinion, don't seem to understand.
That's two different groups. Okay, I want to back up on that.
All right.
I There are people who haven't got the ability. Okay, I think there are people who are sadly they're intellectually disabled, or they have severe mental illness, or they have physical handicaps. It's not just processing it. I mean, if you're born without vision or you're born without hearing, it makes it much harder to
Yes.
so- to make it. And then, you know, there are the people who have been denied the opportunities. And I think they're both groups, and I don't think, I think we have to talk about them separately. But you see, the thing is, if I go to the most rigid, conservative, mean-spirited person in America, and I say to them, here's this person who was born blind and and with no arms or whatever, and with a mental disability. Usually, they're not going to say, "Well, tough for them. Let them make it like Helen Keller did."
Right.
Mostly, people will say, "Okay, we should help that person."
Yes.
It is the people who have been systematically, not only in this generation, but their parents and their parents' parents, who have been systematically denied the opportunity. And then you say, well, what? And well, my grandparents made. Yeah, but while your grandparents were making it, this person's grandparents were being held down.
Yes.
At what point do we say, how do we help them? And do we ever say? So I think there's a real issue there.
I think we should afford opportunity. Let's talk about, okay, the projects or the slums or whatever you want to call it, where people live. I would like to see some type of investment into their communities where they would eventually be able to own the businesses around them.
And the home.
Yes, in a home. And I don't go along with the majority of these people want to be that way. They don't have, they don't want to go further, and they just want to live off of everybody.
But, okay, but Monica, already we have a problem. And the problem is, let's assume you could do that. Let's say that we went to wherever, pick an area where there's poverty and outside landlords and all of that. Mm-hmm. And we set it up that way. In the process of doing that, making it possible for them to own those businesses and that dwelling place, we're creating segregation.
Well, I don't think it should be impossible for them to own it. You might be creating segregation if you go into just a black neighborhood, and people might look at it like that, but they shouldn't. This is the neighborhood. Whites are welcome,
But if in fact it's now these poor people, I don't care. Yeah, I'm not even talking about racial segregation or color segregation. I'm talking about the people who are there. Let's assume that there's a mix.
Okay.
They're all, but they all live there. And now we're kind of saying you have to stay there because we're giving you your stake there.
Well,
and
I don't know, because there's so many people there. You're not going to have all of them ever stay. They might decide, they want to be in the movies or they want to go to another state.
How do we give them the support? How do we give people the support to be upwardly mobile and to enjoy more of the benefits of life? That's the question. I'm challenging.
Well, no, I think we first have to help them survive. Now, I'm not talking about we're going to pay them the rest of their lives. I feel like we can give people a foot up. See, people are going to have more pride if they own something. They're going to frequent that store
Oh, absolutely.
because it's their neighbor. They're going to get jobs put in there for their own people, not people from somewhere else. And it's going to bring them pride within their neighborhoods. Just like it would bring me pride if I opened up a place and hired people from within. It would be for the community.
So one part of it is investment and giving perhaps low cost loans,
Mm-hmm.
business support. One of the things is it's all very well and good to say, okay, you can buy this business and we'll give you a low cost loan, but if you don't know how to run a business,
Yeah, we
we
need
have
training. Absolutely.
okay.
And that's why I happen to like, and I know many people don't like it, but something that Bernie Sanders said was to allow people to have 2-year free college.
I was going to education.
Yes, I went to a college, for a free college. Believe me, we had them before. And
I went to a very expensive college,
yeah,
and
not
and
me.
I have to say that I don't think it's better for having gone to an expensive college than having gone to a free college. I think college experience should be available to everybody who A, wants it, and B, has the capacity. I also think that free vocational education should be available to the people who want that and have the capacity. Because, one of the things that drives me up a wall is, I get a plumber here or an electrician or a heating and air conditioning person or somebody. They learned a trade, and we need those people. We need
We have a
people.
lack of them now because everybody's trying to be, the CEO of a company.
Right. So we need to we need to induce people to go into those trades. And that, among other things, means we have to help them financially so that it works for them to get that
And
education,
it's the
just
same.
work to go to college.
It's the same with teachers. The medical field. They all need people, and we have people. It's just crazy to have shortages, of this type in the trades, especially when there are so many people that want to learn the trade, that want to give back. Because the investment you're going to make in them is going to bring you a lot more money. You're going to get the tax from the employees. You're going to get, of course, the tax from the business. And, it's an investment. It's not just give it away.
But now let's stop for a minute. I mean, I agree with all of that. We're in agreement with that. But now who's going to pick the cabbages?
Me personally, I want to tell everybody something. I lived in California for over 30 years, and we moved back to California about 3 or so years ago. The immigrants who come here or have lived here, their quality of work in every aspect, because I was an operations manager at one time, and I hired and fired and the whole thing that goes with it. I've also hired people to do things at my home. The quality of work that I have seen from the immigrants far exceeds most I ever saw from anyone else. And Richard says the same thing to me, the people he has hired.
I couldn't agree more. And so, but the problem here is, let's say that we let these people, and I think it's really funny because there are people in this country who say they're going to come take our jobs, and they're really taking jobs nobody
wants. And they're also paying taxes.
Yeah. But then we have these folks coming from places like El Salvador. They're here, their children are here, their children are growing up, and their children don't want those jobs anymore.
Right.
There always is going to be this question of who's going to pick the cabbages. And so the answer is maybe that we always have to have this potential for allowing people to come to this because it is such a wealthy country, at least for now, until everything like picking cabbages is automated
Yes.
and we can have a robot out there picking them. But until that point, we need to allow ourselves to have. Now, there are some people who maybe can't go to college, maybe can't learn to do plumbing. Maybe the best they can learn to do is to pick cabbages, but they should also live a decent life. So I think the question is always going back. It's always going to be returning. How do we make sure that everybody in our society is no longer just surviving, but that everybody is living a decent life? And it seems to me there are a lot of parts to the answer. Free education is certainly one part. Subsidizing healthcare and things like that is another part. I believe in paying children for school accomplishment, and
Yeah, you had told me that a while back.
believe in paying the less fortunate, the children of less fortunate families twice. Pay them now and pay them with savings for going into the rest of their life. Whereas their kids from more fortunate families perhaps just have them creating a savings account. So when they're ready to go to college or they're ready to start their lives, they have something to start with.
And it teaches them the value of money, how to handle it.
Yeah.
So that's a good idea. It's
But in
something.
the process of doing that, how do we avoid making life just one big giveaway? See, I think that's the other side of it. I don't believe that in the Marxist dogma of to each according to his needs. I believe it is that everybody should get what they need in order to have a decent life.
Exactly.
But there should be some criteria for, if they're not doing their best, if they're not giving back to society, I'm not all that interested in taking care of them.
And they should be thrown out of whatever they were in, whatever programs they were in. You should have to meet, like you said, a certain criteria.
But then
You should have to keep your grades at a certain average.
But then what do we do with them? And again, then are we back to putting people in prisons or some kind of sharecropping slavery kind of thing? What do we do with the people who, for whatever reason, not the ones who can't, but the ones who choose not?
To me, if they're choosing not to, that's the choice they've made. They had the opportunity to go with the program, get educated, or go to school, or whatever it was.
But now they're dropped out. What do we do with them? I'm really asking a simple question. See, like I'm segueing into something. For example, drugs. Okay. I do not believe in a war on. I think the war on drugs has done tremendous damage.
Oh, it's made it worse.
But I do not believe that it is okay for somebody to be on drugs all the time. So I have this thing, for example, this is a wonderful drug called Narcan. And it stops the absorption of heroin-based kind of drugs and saves lives. And, in many jurisdictions now, police officers carry Narcan with them so they can save lives. My question would be, and I know may sound brutal, but how many times does a person get to have their life saved?
Yeah, because everybody has to take responsibility for their own choices and actions in life. Not blame it on you being poor or you're being rich, or you have to say that I had this choice to make and I chose this. So that was the wrong one. So maybe I better go back the other way. As far as drugs, that's a hard one. I think you should get an opportunity to get clean if you're serious about it. Because I have seen so many people go on programs that are not serious at all about it.
I'm sure
All
they
they
do
want to do is get the drug that they're getting as a substitute and go sell it on the street so they can get the hard drug that they want.
some for that even. Yeah, my thing is, okay, let's go back to my question. How many shots of Narcan, how many treatments of Narcan do you get? See, I've always said you get the first one, no question. The second one you get and you're told you get one more. The third one you get it and you're told no more.
Yeah, there
And
should be a limit.
they let you die. Because you see, I think that one of the things that we really have to recognize is that there are people who are choosing, and again, I'm not talking about mental illness. I'm
No.
not talking about incapacity. I am talking about choice here. There are people who choose to not try. Like I have worked with people with severe disability, what we used to call mental retardation. I don't think it's a very nice phrase, but pretty severe. And yet they would go to work. I mean, maybe all they could do was sweep the floor. But goddamn, they took pride in sweeping the floor.
Yes, and that's like the cabbage is being picked.
Yeah.
It's
But the
whatever
person
job you have before you, you need to take
who
pride.
says to me, I'm above sweeping the floor, but I'm not going to sweep, I'm not going to do anything else either.
Well, then you don't deserve anything. I
Then,
think
yeah,
most Americans agree on that.
yes, and those are the people where then we have to say, well, what do we do with them? Because if we leave them out on the street,
There's going to be theft and everything, death.
If we leave them out on the street, they will get sick and they will spread their disease. If we kill them off, I mean that's just horrific. I mean that's one step away from the Nazis.
Exactly.
We're not going to do
We
that.
don't even get close to that.
What do we do with those people? I don't have an answer. I really don't.
To tell you the truth, there's not much you can do for someone when they've decided they hate life or have given up on it. If you've tried and tried and tried with them
I think you
previous,
still find mental illness there. Those are the people I'm willing to help because they hate life. I'm talking about the people who just don't have any desire to do. You know, it's not that they hate, they're perfectly happy. Hey, give me a joint and I'm happy. This is my next meal coming from, this is cool, man. I'll sit here. I have no, I don't want us as a society to support that. I want us as a society to support the person who's so depressed they want to, oh my God, I can't live another day. I want to help that person. But the person who says, oh, I'm just happy and, sitting in shit, I don't want to help that person.
no, I don't either. And most people don't.
Yeah. I think most of us don't. And I think we do have to come up, although I think that probably with good mental health care and good support systems and good education, that the vast majority of people really do get satisfaction from accomplishing.
Yeah, and that's what most people need. They want to be appreciated a little bit,
Yeah.
For what they do in life. And I've always had that attitude like you were stating, Ken. I don't care what I'm doing in a job or what job it is. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
Where I see, as a manager, I saw so many people that were just in for the paycheck. They treated their job like it wasn't important. They'd call in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, no, there has to be some kind of pride in your work.
Well, I think one of the secrets here, and this may seem strange, but we were talking about theater tickets, good meals, going to baseball games or whatever it is you love. I mean, I was at physical therapy today, and I was talking to my therapist, out there, torturing me.
Poor kid.
About going to baseball games and all, going to the different parks and things, and how much I enjoyed it. Well, I think that the big difference here is that what we need to start showing in the world is not the great wealth and not, oh, wow, this person can live on the Riviera and blah, 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 and show, hey, here is a normal human being. Here are people, and they're having pleasure in life. Some of it costs money, and we're giving the money because they're producing. Some of it may be free, but they're having fun doing it because they have the time. I think, for example, on It Matters Radio, we've had somebody come on and talk about public space, about parks, things like that. If you like to go to the park and you like to have a picnic and you like to ride your bicycle, and those are things that give you pleasure, then those are things that you should get as part of the fact that you are a good citizen who is taking money. There should be a celebration of us. And I think we have gone from celebrating us to celebrating them. And the them is this, it isn't even, it's funny, it isn't even the rich and powerful. We celebrate in our society people that I personally, not only do I not celebrate, they make me kind of nauseated.
I know.
I see all these kids being, oh, well, this person, is on their 10th spouse, or they did the, they killed, oh God, they went hunting and they killed this beautiful elephant, or they're wearing jewelry that costs more than the average person can earn in a decade, or whatever, and it all makes me sick. I want to see us glorifying the people who are real.
And the thing is, can the people that are real are the people that are usually are making the wealthy wealthy. If all the people walked out and they had nobody to do the work, they're not going to make money.
Even some of the wealthy are real. I was struck in kind of a sad way 4 years ago when Mitt Romney, not 4 years ago, I guess it's 8 years ago now, when Mitt Romney was running for president, and he had sent out for Domino's Pizza for his family, and they're sitting there with Domino's Pizza, and I really don't think he had great taste in pizza. But the thing is,
he was hungry.
He's a pretty normal guy. He gets his kids pizza. He says, he could have gone for better pizza, but he got, the Obamas are pretty wealthy. They weren't always, but they're pretty wealthy. But they're pretty normal people.
Down to earth, yeah.
I go to both parties. It isn't just, Jeff Flake here in Arizona, who is a senator, very much a real guy. Very, politically conservative, but very nice guy, very real guy. I think Joe Biden, real.
Yeah, I think he is too. That's one thing I've always felt about Joe Biden, is that he's a nice guy.
Yeah, he may not the brightest crayon in the pack, but I'm saying is we have a lot of decent people who are wealthy people. They're not all caught up in them. Even among these athletes. Some of the athletes go for these incredibly stupid lifestyles, but then there are others who are taking their money and helping people back home buy houses.
I love it when they do that. Yeah.
Some of them really are just monumentally fine human beings. I think we have to start, same thing with movie stars.
I was going to bring them up, as a matter of fact, because, everybody puts them on such a pedestal. you know, anybody can act. We act every day. You know, there a lot of people act in their jobs. You know, you're having something terrible happen in your life. Well, you've got to go to work and do your work. You got to put on that business act. You know.
But I agree with you. We all present ourselves, but I think it's a real talent to be an actor. I think some of them are incredibly talented, but they're also just plain.
But I believe that most people could be that talented because I've taught acting to people who thought they were terrible. They just didn't know how. Most of the actors, they didn't just walk on the stage and they were born acting. You know, they could do it well. They went to college and they studied it.
Yeah, of course.
You know, or mommy or daddy was in the theater and or, you know, movies and they got in that way. But they still had to be halfway decent or they wouldn't last very long. But I'm just saying that acting, it could be anything. You know, let's say a musician.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
those are no better than another job because without that sweeper, like you were talking about, sweeping the floor in a restaurant, people aren't going to want to come into your restaurant because it'll be disgusting. In fact, that's probably one of the most important things, if not the food. You know, the chef.
I will take it. You know, it's an interesting point you're raising, kind of going in a different direction here. But the really good chef is the one who knows the guy who's cleaning the floors. If you go, and again, this is about celebrating real people. If you want to be successful in your business, the model that creates the most success in general is the one where the person lower down on the hierarchy gets to deal with the person above them or the person above them even on a personal level and give input and feel involved.
Yes.
You're just hiring somebody to come in after the restaurant is closed to stay with that model and to clean the floors. You're probably going to find that your restaurant is going to get pretty dirty. It's also worse than that is you're not going to have a feeling of camaraderie, and so the team won't function well.
Look, there's people that have started out sweeping floors, doing dishes, whatever, who are now top chefs.
Yes. And there are some people who started out being top chefs who shouldn't be sweeping floors.
Exactly.
So let's celebrate the people who are real.
Yes. No matter what they do.
So that the people who aren't willing to put out an effort can really can see the difference. You know, it's like, oh, gee, I could be celebrated. The world could care about me. Because I think the myth that somehow or other you have to be incredibly rich. You know, I do a lot of online stuff and talking with people online. And one of the things young people that I see a lot, they'll think if they don't get all A's and don't go to an Ivy League college, that somehow or other their lives are over.
No.
And it's so sad, but you know, that's, I think, part of the problem is if you say to the world, oh, here, I'm going back to the original thing I started. You say to the world, oh, here are these elite, and here's the rest of it, and oh, aren't this elite wonderful? In a way, we're setting it up.
Yes, we are. It's all set up that way.
An unhappy society.
Exactly. Exactly. Talk
Talk
about unhappy. I have to talk a little bit about politics because we know that tomorrow everybody's going to be voting. We hope everybody is.
Well, you know, a lot of people have already voted.
I voted, yes.
Matter of fact, I think we're closing into having as many people vote early this year as voted totally.
That's right. But Ken, what's bothering me is I want our vote to count. We have the right to have our vote count. And what I see going on right now is one particular party doing everything they can to stop people's votes, to suppress their votes. Why everyone's not up in arms about that, I don't understand. It's a nonpartisan issue.
No, it's very partisan. I'm sorry, I disagree. It's very partisan. One party traditionally, or at least in recent elections,
Yeah, recent elections.
has pushed for inclusive voting, and the other party has pushed to keep that from happening. And the reason is quite simple, that one party sees the people who have not voted or not been able to vote as more likely to support them, and the other party agrees. You know, if both the Democrats and Republicans say looked at an enclave of, we're going to say Martians, okay? Because I don't want. Well, did you know there's a community of Martians? This down the road here from Tucson, Arizona. They live in Spaceville, and
Okay.
and none of them voted because they're all U.S. citizens, but none of them have voted. Nobody is now. If you said, well, Martians are really logically driven voters. They don't, they make up their minds very, they're Dr. Spock. Sorry, maybe I should have said Vulcan. What is
Vulcans.
Vulcan voters. And they all, and it's all, everything. Then both parties would say, oh, we should register the Vulcans.
Sure they would. The more.
But if you said, these are all Martian, these are all Uranus, from Uranus, the planet Uranus, and they all believe that only wealth and property should matter, then the Democratic Party would probably not be in a hurry to register them, and the Republicans would. And if we said, oh no, they're all Venusians, and in Venus it's all about love for one another, the Democrats would be down there.
Yeah, but this is beyond that, Ken. This is beyond that.
I think it is.
This is taking partisanship and inflicting it in our representatives.
But that's the whole goal.
The whole goal of the Supreme Court is to represent the American people. They are to be nonpartisan.
Go to the Supreme Court. All of a sudden you went to the Supreme
Yeah,
Court.
because that's what I'm talking about, because that's what this is leading to.
Okay, so you're talking about that right now because of the composition of the court, we have a system in which one party is getting perhaps more of a boost from the court than the other.
Yeah, which I don't normally care, but when it comes to voting, I care. And everybody should.
A lot of things.
Can you know what they're going to do? They're already starting it.
Oh, of course.
They are going to, these red states that are swing states that have tried lots and lots of things that, let's just say, aren't on the up and up. They are going, they're going to go to the, and they're going to say that there is something wrong, these votes are fraudulent, or we should stop counting them, and they're going to turn.
True. Let's assume it's true.
Yeah.
Let's just Florida, which the two times that we have had election that really, had been hung up that way. Florida's been the Gore Bush election and Hayes Tilden. It was Florida. But let's say beside Florida there's 3 or 4 states in which it's going, and they're all taken to the Supreme Court. Okay, and your fear is that the Supreme Court will show bias.
Oh, they will. What they will do is they'll turn it back to what they did in the past.
It's not a crazy fear. It's a reasonable.
No, it's what they did in the past. They'll turn it back to those states and say, you decide who the electoral is.
No, they didn't do that. As a matter of fact, that's not what they did. In Gore v. Bush, they said, no, the state said we want to keep counting. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't keep counting.
Well, the people wanted him to keep counting.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court said no. But your point is a very good one. what happens if the Supreme Court shows supreme bias?
Yes.
Okay. And my answer to that is that that becomes the beginning of the end of the great experiment. You know, you're asking, you're making an assumption that I don't make, that the United States continues, that the Constitution continues. See, I don't think that the Constitution is as great as other people think it is. I think it needs rehauling. I think it
Oh,
needs
it absolutely
it
needs
should be
rehauling.
rehauled regularly. I think that instead of having to call a constitutional convention in order to have it, I think there should have been a constitutional convention like every 50 years.
Yeah, just to see where we stand right
Well,
now. Because
we
things
change.
change, societies change.
Absolutely.
But it
And
doesn't mean that we should give into dictatorship.
we do have amendments that show that. Okay, the first 10 really aren't quite the same because they were like immediate, but the ones after that all represented that. And in at least one case, what we did was we had an amendment that proved to be farcical and was changed. We did this experiment of prohibition, one of the stupidest things any country
Oh,
ever
I
did.
know it. Yeah, it didn't work. It just brought more crime into our lives.
But but if you think about it, you know, um, we have not really looked at the Constitution, revised it. Now, for example, okay, now I am going to be a big fan of the post office, but but the post office really is now in competition with all of these other delivery services. Should we be rethinking? Should the post office be written into the Constitution, or should we have a different approach written in? I don't know the answer. I'm just raising.
I would rather have it, the post office is the way it is, without
raising-
the joy.
Yours-
But
What is the best way to do the census? When the Constitution was written, it was a question of going house to house, but there weren't people living on the streets.
they should do
There
the
were
census
questions
online.
of huge cities, etc. Now, are we better doing sampling, or should we have some combination of? Well, these are questions that are kind of left.
But people this year were afraid to even do the census, many of
Well, I
them.
understand that. I understand that. I'm saying, but we need to look at the Constitution so that we have the tools to do those things. And then we don't even get me started on issues like, the whole question of reproduction and women's right to choose.
And we need to talk about that
Yeah.
because
And then there's the and then there's the question of our Citizens United question, our corporations people, and then there's the question of financing political campaigns. There is so many, and of course we don't have political parties in the Constitution,
no.
and we need to put an issue, some controls on what political parties are in. So I guess I'm saying that,
We need controls on what the president can do
well, that is one of the problems.
because they never thought that we'd have so much corruption within our government.
Well, one of the problems is we need a strong executive branch, but we need checks and balances on it. And clearly, in your opinion and in my opinion, the current Congress has failed to provide those effective checks
Yeah,
and
as
balances.
far as I'm concerned, then okay, it'd be like, okay, I hired you to do a job, Ken, and you looked great, and I thought you were going to do wonderful in this job, and you didn't. In fact, instead of doing wonderful, you tried your best to do the opposite and harm the company. Okay, am I going to keep you in that position?
Well, that's what this election is about. Okay, I mean, one of the
And
key
that's
issues.
what people need to know. It's really not about Democrats and
Oh,
Republicans.
I don't think there's anybody left in this country who thinks that this election is about anything beside Trump.
Well, it's not just Trump, though, Ken.
Of course it is. I mean, Trump and Trumpism and his cronies, and
Yes.
why have they, and I would make the case of why has this congressman continued to support him, or why is it,
Yeah, but
but
it shouldn't be allowed when it becomes this corrupt, is what I'm saying. And talk about, there needs to be a check and balance. I know
there
it's in
is
place,
one,
but
it's
it's
called
the Senate.
impeachment. There is one, it's called impeachment, and maybe we need to rethink the nature of impeachment.
Mhm.
I think personally that the impeachment is not a viable methodology because of parties. When the Congress, when it was originally designed, when the Constitution was written, there were no parties. So impeachment was something that made sense. You have all of these reasonable, honorable, respected men from their various relatively small communities. I mean, even the delegation from Pennsylvania, or New York, knew most of the people, certainly most of the voters. Now that's no longer the case.
No.
I mean, even in a small state, most of the politicians don't know. So we have a situation where it's by party. And so impeachment becomes a question of which party is in power.
Which should not be.
Well, so maybe we need to, again, I'm calling for something much more, you're talking about right now. I'm saying I think the United States needs a new constitution. So now let's go back to, okay, the Supreme Court pulls some kind of shit. And in every case, oh no, we're going to side with the Republicans.
Hmm.
The question is, then what happens? I don't know. Do we have civil war? Do we have uprisings? Does the military take a stand? I don't know the answer. I think we should be worried. I think we should be very worried.
Me too.
What you know is that if at the end of if next week the Supreme Court tries to take the election away from the American people,
Which is what they're trying to do right now.
but if that is what they try to do, that there will be rage in this country. But I do not agree with you quite as I do not think as strongly agree as strongly as you do with your premise, and I'll tell you why. They are strict constructionists. Okay, there have been in the courts a number of decisions made. Many of them have favored the Republicans, but the reason they have favored the Republicans is because the Republicans find it in their benefit to be strict constructionists. Okay, it doesn't say, there's nowhere, and again, this is a constitutional issue. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the government can adjust or the states can adjust the voting procedures in order to facilitate under extreme conditions. So during the Second World War or the First World War, the Spanish flu pandemic, whatever it has been, the elections have taken place. Even the Civil War, the elections took place in the same time frame. That's because it's written that way. Again, maybe we need to alter how it's written. I would say that the Wisconsin decision, which is probably the one that has you the most up in the air, because actually I would have voted with the majority. And I'm unhappy about it. But technically they're right.
Yes, but see, this is the problem, technically.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that's where they're coming from. They're strict constructionists. It isn't that they're necessarily saying we're going to look for the Republican. That's different. If they do that, that's, from my point of view, grounds for revolution. But for them to say, this is the law, we're going to stick to it, No, I think what we need is to realize that the law has to be changed.
Well, I'm actually talking more about Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, the Republicans, who are, of course, the majority in that state as far as representation in the state, who are in office,
Mm-hmm.
they have tried everything they can to suppress the vote. This
Yes.
is illegal. This should not be happening. This is being encouraged by our government.
Well, it's illegal. It's wrong. Okay.
It's illegal to suppress the vote.
Well, but the things they're doing are not per se illegal.
Oh, it's not. Okay, so I have a county that's huge, huge county. It's
Mm-hmm.
big as one of the, like Rhode Island or
Have
something.
one drop box in it, and the other kind.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and yes, and there are places where they have been doing that, and again, it's not that it's illegal; it's wrong. It's morally wrong. Okay. We are sadly
It's
seeing.
illegal to suppress the vote. It's illegal.
It's not suppressing. Technically, it's not suppressing the
It
vote.
is suppressing the vote.
No,
When you
technically,
have this many boxes, then all of a
technically,
sudden they all disappeared but one,
technically,
you just
legally.
suppressed the vote.
It is the purpose of it, but technically, legally, you know, it's an arguable case.
I think it's suppression, out and out suppression.
Yes, yes.
I also, it's not even that, Ken. Twice now, Pennsylvania has has approached the judicial system, and said that we're finding funny things happening with the votes.
Hmm.
They're building it up,
Of course they are.
so they're going to come back and say it is all fraudulent.
So then what happens?
Then the Supreme Court sends it back to them and says, "Okay, you choose the electoral."
Well, if the Supreme Court were to do that,
That's what this is all about.
but if the Supreme Court were to do that, then we're right back in. Now we're talking about grounds for revolution.
Yes, and the
But
people could prevent that, is what I'm trying to say. If they would call their senators, I'm talking about Republicans, who tell me that they are patriots, who tell me they love our country, who say they value our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. It's time for them to stand up, because next time it could be happening to them. They need to get on the phone. They need to really think about this, Ken. They need to think about it. This is going to be a precedent if it happens.
Monica, I hear what you're saying, and one part of me agrees with you. The other part of me says that, not that you're wrong, it's that that's not how the world works. Okay? And how the world works is that the system is supposed to have enough inclusiveness, flexibility, and positive qualities so that everybody believes in it.
Yes.
If in fact we stop believing in it, then we need to overthrow the system. Okay?
We're nearing that point.
And I am saying, well, we don't know. I think that's the question. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know how the vote is going to come down in Pennsylvania. Maybe for all their shenanigans, all it's going to get them is they're all going to be out of a job.
And I guess,
And that would be an interesting outcome. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of these people who are rushing to vote early and all of these people who are standing in line to vote are voting on behalf of a good government? Wouldn't it be wonderful if they were all saying, you're a bunch of scoundrels, get out?
yes, because there are still people who haven't received their ballot that was sent at the end of September.
Well,
And there's not enough time to get that in the mail. That's voter suppression through our...
no, it is or it isn't. We don't know because we don't know if it's incompetence. We don't know if
There's
some.
pictures of the ballots just sitting
Yes, but we
on
don't.
pallets.
We don't know the why. Okay. What I am, you're saying suppression like there's somebody doing it. If there is somebody doing it,
There is
okay,
somebody doing it
if there is like a county clerk who has opted to not send out the ballots for her
who's been
county,
told to hold those.
well, okay, but they're opting to not send them out, then that person should be in the prison in prison. There's not a question in my mind that person should be in prison.
That's what I'm saying. But these people are being cheered on by others, and they don't understand the ramifications of their choices. Because
Well,
you, like I, have voted both ways in our lifetimes. We've voted different parties. You know what I
oh,
mean? We didn't
yes,
just vote Democrat and just vote Republican. We
I
try to
split my
judge.
ticket this time. I didn't vote for just one party, one candidate from one party this time.
Right, and that's the way it actually should be. You should choose the one that you feel is representing the country the best.
Well, you're talking federal, I'm talking state and local too. And so
Hmm. I'm the same way.
if you vote, you should always be voting for the person you think is going to do the best job.
Exactly. You shouldn't vote because it's a in thing to do, or because your friend voted that way, or because almost everybody in your town votes that way and you don't want to be an outcast. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's how a lot of people are voting.
Well, I don't know how people are voting. I really don't. I know that more people are voting this year or seem to be voting than ever before.
Yes.
I see young people getting very involved.
Yeah, and I'm so happy.
I see more people voting early for all of the quote suppression you're talking about. I've seen more early voting than ever before. And I hope that in the end, nobody is going to try and manipulate the outcome because but even if everybody that you and I want elected gets elected, I would say again that the real thing we need in the United States is a new constitutional convention. And growing out of that, we also need to rethink and certainly think about having at least new parties. And,
Yes.
because what we're really end up talking about, and I think this is the thing we haven't talked about, is that the Republican Party is more interested in maintaining the Republican Party than they are in maintaining the United States. The Democratic Party is more interested in maintaining the Democratic Party than they are in maintaining the well-being of the United States.
Yes.
Therein lies the true problem.
It is the true problem.
We have very, very few people in American politics today who are more interested in America than they are in the political future in their party. And therein lies the great sorrow that I feel.
Yeah, Ken, I think that's what it is when we all get down to it. No matter what party you are, you know, um, it's gone so far from what it was originally intended.
Well, when it was originally intended, of course, we have to remember there was a small group of successful white guys.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to remember that. And part of the reason that the Constitution reads the way it does is that it was a very in group. And so there was a lot of assumption about shared values. Okay? I'm a very strange person because while I am, in fact, from an out group, Jewish, and, also kind of hippie-ish, my long hair and intellectual and all that stuff, I also had very in the system education. I went to an old New England boarding school, and then I went to an Ivy League college, Princeton, the most southern of the Ivy League.
And you worked to do that, though, Ken.
I'm sorry?
You worked hard to do those things.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry, no, I didn't. I didn't work hard. Monica, I mean, I don't brag a lot. Uh, they tell me, I don't know, they tell me I'm a genius. I don't know. I've never done anything other than writing some good
I've
books.
been told that too, but I,
Yeah.
I don't
But,
have the vocabulary.
but I got into boarding school. I mean, I had no business being there. My parents wanted to get me out of the house, so I applied, and this was like a very upscale boarding school. Well, I took the entrance exams, and they made me take them again because they couldn't believe I scored so high.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So then I took the college boards, and I did, and meanwhile I'm coming from, so I got to, they didn't work. I'm sorry, I didn't. I had a wonderful time learning and growing and becoming. I mean, I'm not, no, don't get me wrong.
But
I'm
what
not,
you're saying is intellectually it was easy for you.
yeah. But, okay, but getting back to it, I mean, if I had gone from my, honors society in economics, I was in the National Economic Society at BA from Princeton, and have gone on, pursued my interest in economics. I already had a substantial supporter, somebody who had tried to get me a job monitoring the Defense Department's involvement at Princeton. I mean, if I had done that, if I had gone in that direction, I would have been part of the system. But you see, I've
Maybe you
been
might have been President Weene.
no way, no, ready for that. But I could have been, I could have been in the government, and I could have, the thing is that the problem is that that's like one value system.
Hmm.
And it was then. Now it's gotten much more diverse. If you really want to talk about what Barack Obama did, it isn't that he was the first black president. It wasn't that. It was that he was a president who came out of nowhere. That's, and Clinton was a president. The real change is that after Franklin Roosevelt, the presidents started coming out of nowhere. The government started getting distorted. You have some people who are very traditional in their backgrounds, like the Bushes, and you have some who are really off the wall kooky, like Harry Truman, who had no business ever becoming president. I mean, he really didn't.
No,
Well,
no.
Obama just underscored that again. He, basically in a different way. Here, all of a sudden, this guy comes meteoric rise up. He didn't work through the system.
No.
He didn't spend much time in Washington. He didn't even spend much time in Springfield. Because
Yeah, senator and then president, I know.
next thing you know, he became president. He wasn't ready for the job. I mean, I like the guy. I think he's a very fine man, but he wasn't ready to be president. But in doing that, I think it really is like now all the Democrats and all the Republicans
But
both.
who was ready?
Who was
You
ready?
think Reagan was ready?
Uh,
I mean, he
he,
was an actor who they
he
stood
been
up.
a, no, I think Jerry Ford was. That doesn't mean they were good. I mean that they had been trained.
Hmm.
Okay, and now you see that was the thing. The original assumption of the U.S. of the way the Constitution is written is really that there's this group of people that are training one another. The assumption was the Secretary of State was going to become the next president. You'd have the president, the vice president, and
Yeah,
you
because
move.
now they had the experience in working with them, right?
Yeah.
But
Now we have Kookaberry time.
that's the truth.
And Obama really, for all his values and decency and all, really said, to the political parties, hey, you've got, and so we had Hillary as a reclaiming by the Democratic Party, and so was Joe. We have two people who reclaim the dominance of the party, not for the good of the country, but for the good of the party.
Exactly.
Okay.
And,
And
and Ken, I think that's something that most people would agree upon. They want different choices.
Yeah, and on the other hand, we have the Republican Party, and they're all falling behind Trump because the alternative is to let the Republican Party go down. And there were only a couple of them who were willing to say, our party is not as important as our country. So you get Jeff Flake, who says, I can't support this guy. And you get Mitt Romney who's saying, I can't support this guy.
There's quite a few who are saying it now.
Yeah, but most of them, are like, oh, the party, we got to support him because he's our party. Well, it's wrong. That's the real problem.
But they all took an oath for the people, not for the party.
I've often wondered, I'm not a Mason. My father was a Mason.
Mm-hmm.
I never was, and I don't know what, we've had Clay By on the show many years ago to talk about the Masons. I've always wondered what the oaths were that they took in the Masonic Lodge.
I know, we're never going to know.
Okay. I'm not an LDS, Latter-day Saint. I know a Latter-day Saint I work with, as a counselor I work with. There's some lovely people.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I don't know what goes on even when they get married. They go into
and look how old they are.
What are the vows they make in that room? We don't know. We'll never know.
No, we won't.
What I do know is that when Obama took office, there was a meeting among the Republicans to say, no matter what, no matter whether it's good for the country or not, we have to oppose it. We know that because at least one of them admitted it. The oath they take,
it should mean something.
Well, but the oath
they expect us to go into our jobs every day.
Which is the oath that they take that they really care about? And the one, can you square it? Can you say, well, because they never take an oath to the best interest of the country. They take an oath to the Constitution.
Which in it says they are to represent the people.
Not really.
According which part you read.
Really? Yeah. So anyway, we've gone a long way. We've taken a lot of time.
Yeah.
I guess hopefully you're gonna be listening to this, and this is on a Sunday. On Monday, you're gonna hopefully stew about it a little bit. And if you haven't already voted, then on Tuesday you're gonna go stand in line someplace. And I don't know who you're gonna vote for. I don't know who you're going to vote for president. I don't know who you're going to vote for your senator or congressperson. I know you're going to get to vote on a congressperson. You may not even get a senatorial vote. I certainly don't know who you're going to vote for your local constable or sheriff or state senator or any of those things. I hope that you're going to do some homework. I hope you're going to think about it. I hope you're going to think about what you value. And I hope you're going to vote. And thank you so much for listening to It Matters Radio.
Thank you, folks. And whatever you do, vote. We'll see you again. Bye, Ken.
Bye, Monica.
Walking down the street in the town where I was born, I was moving to a beat that I never felt before. So I opened up my eyes and I took a look around. I saw it written in the sky, the revolution starts now. Yeah, the revolution starts now. The revolution starts now. your fear. Tear the walls around you down. Revolution starts here. Where you work and where you play, and where you lay your money down. What you do and what you say. The revolution starts now. Yeah, hey, the revolution starts now. The revolution starts now in your own backyard, in your own hometown. So what you do is standing around. Follow your heart, the revolution starts now. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, 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 yeah. In your own backyard, in your own hometown. Last night I had a dream that the world had turned around. All our hopes had come to be, and all the people gathered round. They all brought what they could bring, and nobody went without. And they learned a song to sing. The revolution starts now. Now. Now.